Mike Heller.
Broadcasting live from an undisclosed bunker in the Badger State. This is I Love Mondays with Mike Heller. Powered by determination and a little bit of duct tape. Here's your host, Mike Heller.
So here we go in on a Monday, a little later than what we would normally do. So I apologize for that. Listen, there are technical issues when I'm in charge of technicalities. So that's what we get on this Monday. So I appreciate the patience for some of those who were tuned in waiting for me to start at 10 o'clock. What did we actually get started at? About 10:40, 10:45. So here we go. It's a busy Monday. Now, things have changed a little bit. I was planning on Bill Huber today to join us on the program, but the Packers have made a trade. So let me tell you what's going on in Green Bay. So when the Dallas Cowboys weren't unable to get Max Crosby, one of the storylines that was going to work out, nobody expected Rashan Gary to stay in Green Bay. And on Friday, he got hacked, right, on Instagram, and they pulled that post down. But indeed, today, unofficially, because the official league year starts on Wednesday, in order to make these deals. But the Green Bay Packers have traded to the Dallas Cowboys Rashan Gary, and they will get a fourth-round pick coming back to the Packers. That is according to the NFL Network. That's the deal of the deal that Green Bay has made. So there are a lot of layers to this. Rashan Gary was not coming back to Green Bay. That was not going to happen. But the storyline, I think Rashan Gary was a disappointment. From a Green Bay perspective, a couple of things happened. The Packers are going to eat $17 million of dead cap money. It's already paid, but it'll now account for it. This year, by trading the Gary to the Cowboys, the Packers remove his remaining $28 million in 2026 and $31 million in 2027. That comes off the books. So they get $11 million in savings this year. They'll get $31 million in savings next year, and they get a fourth-round pick coming back. Why is that important? Because Green Bay was going to release Rashan Gary. Now, the rub for Dallas was, to like an outsider's view of this, they didn't want to compete with the market for Rashan Gary, because then you end up going to the highest bidder. So Dallas makes the deal. They give up a fourth-round draft choice in exchange. So Green Bay looks like this now from a defensive perspective. They made a trade over the weekend in getting Zier Franklin, eighth season for the Indianapolis Colts. He's been a captain for the last 6. So in that regard, getting Franklin helps them from a leadership standpoint. I don't know that it's a significant upgrade. Maybe it's a level upgrade, staying the same at production, because you would then now assume, don't make full assumptions, but the belief system is that Quay Walker is gone. So Quay Walker is gone, and he's going to get a lot of money. You're replacing him with somebody a little bit more affordable and somebody who's been a captain and who's going to be 30 years old when the Packers are in training camp. 29 now, will turn 30. So those two storylines come into play. Gary goes away. They're going to return Devontae Wyatt at some point. But in that trade that they sent for Zier Franklin, Colby Wooden goes. And a lot of people kind of liked him as a young, productive interior defensive lineman. So the Packers are going to have to make moves, and I wouldn't be surprised as that window opens up. The tampering window opens up here in about 13 minutes. So it goes at 11 o'clock Central Time. And when it opens up, I would assume that Green Bay is going to have some activity going on. So we'll see how that works. I'm going to be monitoring my Twitter feed as we go, because it's going to speed up things that are going to happen. So let me just read this as it comes in. Chiefs future Hall of Fame tight end Travis Kelce is expected to return now to Kansas City for his 14th season. That's a bit of a surprise. I think many people thought, many of the NFL experts thought when the season ended that was going to be it. That was the walk-off, the swan song for Travis Kelce. And indeed, as it's being reported now, it is not. So back to the Green Bay Packers. There are a few things at play here. One, they redid their deal with Banks. So let me kind of run through what I think is going on in Green Bay on the offensive line. Jordan Morgan's going to be your left tackle. Aaron Banks is going to be your left guard. The first 3 quarters of the season last year, Aaron Banks was a terrible disappointment. A ton of money sent his way, and he didn't produce at that level. So that's an issue. However, maybe their full belief system there was that Aaron Banks and his injuries were the reason for the lack of production. He was not a highly rated guard at any point last year, and they spent a lot of money to bring him in. So Morgan, your left tackle. Rasheed Walker is going to be one of the first names that goes off the board, maybe as early as soon in the next couple of hours. Somebody's going to pay him some money. So Jordan Morgan at left tackle. Aaron Banks at left guard. There's a trust factor there. Sean Ryan in at center. So that was a significant move because Green Bay was going to have to go out and find themselves a center. That was a problem. Sean Ryan didn't show versatility. I think they hoped and they like to draft and develop linemen with positional versatility. He doesn't appear to have that, but I think by doing what they did, they're locking him in at center. Anthony Belton is likely going to be the right guard. He's in his second year. You spent a second-round draft choice on him. He'll likely be the right guard. And then Zach Tom. And Zach Tom, to me, is their best offensive lineman, but the question is he healthy? So there's a patella injury that you're talking about working through. He's got some significant injury hurdles to leap over as they work forward. But that would be on paper today, their offensive line, left to right. Morgan, Banks, Ryan, Belton, and Tom. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on offensive line play, but that offensive line doesn't scare you from, boy, they're going to dominate people. I'm talking about opponent fear. I don't think that offensive line is one that will be looked at and said, hey, how are you going to handle that offensive line? They're road graders. They'll protect. It is a significant question in Green Bay. I think that's going to be the 5, and then what the depth is, unless they go ahead and make some free agent aisle 2 shopping as the free agency window opens here momentarily. So we'll see how that part plays. Defensively, I wouldn't be at all surprised if they're active on the, again, aisle 2 of the free agent market to find an interior defensive lineman. Think of it this way. Colby Wooden is gone. And last year you traded, one of the lead deals in Clark. You're not as talented there as you were a year ago. You need some beef interior defensively. And I think Green Bay obviously counting on Micah Parsons on the edge and now Lucas Van Ness on the other edge because Rashan Gary is gone. So there are questions. There are going to be a ton of questions about Green Bay. I wonder how this part plays itself forward. And last week on the podcast, I said that I thought that the Bears would be the team, if I had to pick in the moment, the Bears would be the team I would pick to win the division. And I think I would still stay there and just see where the rest of this kind of plays itself out. So I find all of these elements to be very interesting as it rolls itself forward for Green Bay. Take a moment here and welcome you into the I Love Mondays podcast. We made a move today to move to 10 a.m. We also made a move today to put Mike in charge of the stuff that you can't see in front. So I've got machines in front of me computers in front of me that I haven't operated before. And that was part of the delay. We expected to go at 10 a.m. We went at 10:45-ish. And it might be a little bit of shorter show today, just so I can get through what's in front of me without screwing things up too badly. But I do want to thank our sponsors because they're important to me. And in proxy, I hope that they're then important to you. That's how sponsorship works on my end. I need the support not only of those of you watching the podcast, but also to support our sponsors. So I'll begin with M3. They help businesses and individuals manage risk, purchase insurance, and to provide the benefits for their employees. So I mentioned this throughout the week last week. If you're in a small business or a medium or large business, and you're in the area of securing insurance and or benefits for employees, please do yourself a favor and help us out too by checking out what M3 Insurance offers, because what they do is fantastic. You get it all with them, the personal guidance you need to protect and grow your business, and a team that provides tailored insurance and risk management solutions and unparalleled service. Don't settle for anything less from your insurance broker. Go to m3ins.com. It's also presented by the Neuroscience Group, which is excellence in brain, spine, and pain care out of Northeast Wisconsin, based in the Appleton area. They're the stadium rights sponsor for Fox City Stadium and the Timber Rattlers, the Brewers Single A affiliate there. From diagnosis to recovery, Neuroscience Group brings together neurology, neurosurgery, pain management, and therapy all under one roof. Neuroscience Group, Northeast Wisconsin's leader in neurological care. Program is also brought to you by our friends at Potawatomi Sportsbook and Casino Hotel in Milwaukee, Bet Above the Rest, and by our friends at Habish and Rotier. All of our injury updates. And today there aren't really any other than the Bucks didn't play Giannis yesterday in a blowout loss. And we'll get into the Bucks a little bit later on. I don't know that it was injury or just management in coming back from injury. But all of our injury updates brought to you by Habish and Rotier, 13 locations to ensure you get a hometown attorney who understands your life and the impacts of your injury and is personally committed to your recovery. Those are our sponsors on the program. All right, so when we're covering through the things that are going on, like I said, I'll be kind of paying close attention to what's going on NFL free agency. But Rob Demoski just tweeting out, not a big surprise, Packers and Romeo Doubs. He will sign elsewhere when the free agent window opens here in just a matter of minutes. So think of who's going to be out the door for the Green Bay Packers. Rasheed Walker, almost certainly going to be gone. Well, it shouldn't even be an almost certainly. He is going to sign somewhere else, and he's going to make himself his big money. Rasheed Walker is going to get paid. It will not be in Green Bay. The Packers are also going to lose Quay Walker. I think that move for Zier, the trade that the Packers made to Zier Franklin from Indianapolis, likely sealed the deal on Quay Walker, who also is in that second contract window, and he's going to get paid. These guys go get their bags of money, and you can't blame them. The opportunity for Quay Walker to get paid, and somebody's going to be really excited. Another NFL franchise and their fan base is going to be really excited to add Quay Walker. I don't think he disappointed in Green Bay, but he didn't take off. He didn't make it so he was going to get that second bag of money in Green Bay. So he's going to go get paid somewhere else, and I'll be interested to watch because I do love his upside. So Quay Walker's going to leave and go somewhere else. We know that Rashan Gary is already out the door. And then Romeo Doubs is the other. And people have inquired, it appears, on to a number of players in Green Bay. But Doubs is going to be one that goes. Reed is going to stay. And I know he's been asked about from other teams in the NFL. But he's going to stay in Green Bay. But Romeo Doubs is going to go get paid. And Romeo Doubs is a good receiver. If the Packers didn't have what is on paper and what we saw a year ago, pretty significant depth. If they didn't have a bunch of depth, Romeo Doubs would be here. But their lead receiver is Christian Watson. and I'm not even talking about tight end because I think their lead is Tucker Kraft. But from a wide receiver position, the lead is Christian Watson. And then they have a lot of depth, and it leaves Romeo Doubs available to go out there, and he's going to get paid. So all these things kind of going on, and they're all going to deal into what Green Bay does over the next 72 hours, 48 hours into Wednesday's official signing of free agents and movements, because that's when it'll happen. But all of the activity is going to happen here beginning, essentially in the next couple of minutes. So the NFL is going to be super active and stealing a lot of headlines over the time that's coming up here. And that's what the NFL does. This is their window. They do it, I think, better than everybody else in stealing the headlines and in being front and center. So the National Football League is going to do that. And how active Green Bay will be in this window, they're already active on a trade to bring in Zier Franklin, on a trade to send Rashan Gary away. And in return, this is good in this regard, because in return they get a 4th rounder. And otherwise what they were going to get was something compensatory. That's it. They were not going to get that value. And by making the deal, they're going to get that value. So that ends up being good for Green Bay. And Rashan Gary, there's just no way around it. Dude was disappointing in Green Bay. He's their 1st-round draft choice. There was an expectation that he would turn into something special in Green Bay, and special never happened. There were glimpses, there were shots at being special, but it never materialized to the level where even last year when the Packers make the deal for Micah Parsons, the thought is you got Parsons on one edge, and Rashan Gary is going to benefit more than anybody else by being on the other side. And it didn't really happen. And then certainly late in the year when Rashan Gary could have done all the things he needed to do to really be paid, he didn't. He didn't play at a level that made you look at the Packers and Rashan Gary as, hey, they're going to have to find that money again for Rashan Gary. Instead, it made him completely expendable. And Dallas has taken a bit of a flyer on Gary, but the cost of it is not significant. Whatever money, because the dollars aren't guaranteed there, so they'll likely renegotiate some type of a deal. But they're kind of taking a flyer that he will be the guy that he was expected to be at Michigan and didn't. And he would be the guy expected to be in Green Bay and didn't. And now the Cowboys are hoping that the 3rd time he will actually be who he was expected to be. So we'll keep an eye on what's going on in the NFL. There's going to be a lot of things happening. So you'll see me glancing to my right a lot, because that's where my Twitter feed comes from. And that's where things are going to happen here today, is here. So I'll keep an eye on how that plays itself rolling forward. And then the other news of the day and from the weekend, because I love Monday and so many things happened over the last few days. So let's start with a couple of those. How about the Badgers win Saturday, Badger basketball on the road at Purdue? And I should mention, and I'm mentioning right now, that Badger women's hockey lost in the WCHA championship game against Ohio State. They're the number 2 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. Wouldn't be surprised if they find their way to meeting Ohio State for the NCAA championship, which would be fantastic. We've seen that before. Badger men's hockey swept the weekend on the road at Penn State. A little turnabout is fair play, because Penn State came in earlier in the season in Big Ten play and swept their series in Madison. The Badgers go out there and do the same thing on Penn State, and they'll begin Big Ten tournament play with home ice on Wednesday night. Badger men's basketball, their net ranking is now number 26. A week ago, they were 33-34. Now they're up 7 or 8 spots to number 26. Their bracket matrix So there's a bracket matrix deal that compiles and aggregates all of the bracketology and dumbs it down into one deal, and then it shows the chart of who's got them everywhere. So they're on the matrix. This is the compilation of all of them. They're the second, sixth seed, which I think gives them potential opportunity if they had a run at the Big Ten tournament to maybe touch the 5 line, which I didn't think was doable. And now maybe the 5 line is doable. They're a 6 on most of the brackets that you would trust and look at. They're a 6. By winning at Purdue, just think of the road wins that this team, and then I'm going to talk in generalities about this, but think of the road wins, winning at undefeated Michigan when they were number 1 ranked in the country and hadn't lost. They win in Ann Arbor. They went to Illinois and beat Illinois on their home court when they were number 10 ranked in the country. And now they beat Purdue and West Lafayette. Purdue, inexplicably, I think they lost 5 times on their home court this year. Wisconsin won, and they were shorthanded without the double-double machine that is Nolan Winter. And they won on Saturday in West Lafayette. It's a really impressive win. Caps off a really impressive season. Wisconsin in the regular season finishes at 22-9, 14-6 in the Big Ten. That's 5th place alone in the conference. They're the 5 seed. They get the double bye in the Big Ten tournament. They were 6 points away from getting a triple bye. Maryland almost pulled one off against Illinois. That would have been the unlikely outcome. But Wisconsin's the 5 seed in the Big Ten tournament. They'll open on Thursday afternoon about 1:30. They're the second game, 25 minutes after the conclusion of the first game, which goes at 11. So think about the 1:30, 1:35 window. On Thursday, they get the winner of USC, which was a bad loss for Wisconsin, and Washington, who will play the day before. They will play on Wednesday. And Washington is where Wisconsin just went and blew out the Huskies on their home court last weekend. So see how that plays. 1:30, Wisconsin would be on the line to meet Illinois, the 4th seed in the tournament. If the Badgers survive on Thursday, they would advance and take on Illinois, who does get that triple bye, and they would take on the Illini on Friday in the quarterfinals. That also is opposite of in the same bracket line as the top seed Michigan. So because of where Wisconsin slots, they could get Michigan in a Saturday Big Ten semifinal. If these things happen, if Wisconsin gets to Saturday, they play themselves close to the 5 line, I think. So think of those things as you roll forward into this week. Let me speak in a couple of general terms on Wisconsin. This team with Nick Boyd and John Blackwell, and Blackwell, he was missing. He was still there, but he wasn't the John Blackwell that we're accustomed to seeing for a few games. I don't know why. There's been illness going through the roster, so maybe he was a bit under the weather. But this team of villains, it's what they call themselves when they win on the road. They're great villains. When Blackwell and Boyd are playing like they did on Saturday, this group can beat anybody. And it really helped that Rapp and Biliauskas were making threes. Those two guys kind of unsung on Saturday. I think they had 15 and 13 points respectively. They were the difference. I know that Boyd's second half, what do you have, 18 in the second half, something like that, 18 or 19 after halftime. And Blackwell was great. Those two, I get it, were huge. But Rapp and Biliauskas, even though they got beat on the glass, and you expected that to happen with the way Purdue plays and also without Nolan Winter playing for Wisconsin, but Rapp and Biliauskas were, to me, the reasons why Wisconsin won the game. The Badgers make 18 threes in the game. It was the shooting display was impressive as heck. And then I think of the shots that Nick Boyd made. He had that throw in left of the lane when he was caught in traffic and then spun out of it and threw up the left-hander high off the glass. Extraordinary. he went left to right and spun one off the glass on a previous possession. The way he finished on Saturday in West Lafayette was extraordinary. The Badgers have now had back-to-back seasons with guys that came in for 1 year that have been ridiculous when it mattered. John Tonje a year ago and Nick Boyd, who finished now averaging better than 20 points per game for the full regular season. The last guy to do that was Michael Finley 30 years ago. So Boyd has been amazing. And to me, what a great story he is. But again, if I pull back and the big picture of who Wisconsin is as they roll forward, is that this team could go deep in the tournament because they can beat anybody. And many times when we say something like that, you say, well, they could also lose to anybody. Well, that's the nature of the tournament, is that really good teams can also lose to anybody. But if Wisconsin's on the 6 line, they avoid the things that I think many of us were talking about. If you're on the 7, 8, or 9 line, 10 line as well, obviously, you're going to get a number 1 or number 2 seed in the second game of the tournament. Move to 6 and 5, and you suddenly get out of those. I know that there's that 5, you get 8, 9, 7, 10, 6, 11, 5, 12. That 5, 12 ends up being an upset special. Many of you on brackets are going to pick at least 1 12 to beat a 5. So that gets to be a dangerous game. That 12 seed can be really good. But Wisconsin moving up to a 6, maybe a 5 seed line, avoids a 1 or a 2 seed in the second round. Now, some of you might disagree with this, but this is where I kind of live on the tournament. Everything, once you get to the second weekend, is gravy. Now, there are teams like Michigan and Duke and some others that don't view it that way, but I still view it that way, even though I think Wisconsin is borderline as an elite college basketball program. They're certainly very good or great. Elite is another level. Elite lives in the second weekend of the tournament. And Wisconsin hasn't lived in the second weekend of the tournament, haven't been there now in a decade. So you need to get to the second weekend of the tournament in order to take those steps. This team is very capable. Matchups matter. Last year, they win the first round. Thought they were very capable last year, but they get BYU in the second round. And it wasn't a great matchup until late when Wisconsin really rallied. And certainly, obviously, they had a chance to win with Tonje's shot as time expired with a chance to win the game. So let's see how they slide into this tournament. 6 days from now is Selection Sunday. And there's a belief system, if you've followed over the years, you think, well, Wisconsin on a 6 line today, what would happen if they move forward into the Big Ten tournament Saturday, even Sunday? Then the 5 seed comes into play. And they're playing with confidence right now. That's this team in what they've done recently. And I've already mentioned the Michigan win, the Illinois win. How about the home Michigan State win, the road win at West Lafayette? And I get it. In between that, they lost a road game at Oregon and then hammered Washington, which is the better team. So those things kind of in play. I'm just continuing to look over here. Eric Stokes, back to the Raiders, 3-year deal, $30 million. Former Packers first-round pick, Eric Stokes. So continue to monitor TweetDeck over here to my right, your left, to see what's going on in the NFL. But we're talking about what the Badgers can do. They have been a really impressive team who has who has found belief in themselves throughout the Big Ten season as we've gotten deeper and deeper. That's a Purdue team that they beat Saturday in West Lafayette that they lost by, 19 points at home. So this is a different team than the one who was blown out in some matchups early in a Big Ten season. I think of the road game at Nebraska. I think of the home game against Purdue. but also blown out in some of the non-conference games earlier in the season where they just didn't understand who they were. And now they've become a really good team that everybody on the other side, I'm just going to flip the screen here a little bit. Everybody on the other side, when they see that they're matching up against Wisconsin, the mantra in their media, in their markets is going to be, oh, I don't want to see Wisconsin. It works both ways. We many times ignore how the other side views it, but that is going to be the truth about teams that are opposite Wisconsin on the bracket lines. They're going to go, ooh, that's not a great draw, even if they're a higher seeded or better seeded team. So there's some of that in play. What else happened on an I Love Monday over the weekends? USA in the World Baseball Classic, they're now 2-0. They're going to take on Mexico tonight, who's also 2-0. That's in Houston. And you would think that a home field advantage. I don't think so. I think the Mexican fan faithful will likely outnumber the USA fan faithful tonight. In Houston, Paul Skeens is on the mound, and then the U.S. will take on Italy Tuesday to wrap up their pool play. Bryce Terang played in the first game in the win over Brazil on Friday. He was 3 for 6, had 4 runs batted in a 15-5 win. He did not play at all Saturday. Toronto's Ernie Clement played that position, and there was the Team USA did not go to their bench. They let the 9 players on the field in the starting lineup. They got all the at-bats and played the entire game. So the U.S. and Mexico tonight, the U.S. and Italy tomorrow night to wrap pool play. And both Italy and Mexico are undefeated right now, just like the U.S. is. So the pool play in these 2 games, these are the ones that will determine how this rolls forward. But that's where Team USA is in the World Baseball Classic, which is one of the things I love about it is that you get to see teams ramp up early. Usually spring training about now, and if you're at spring training, you understand position players are going to get an at-bat, maybe 2. Starting pitchers are going to go an inning or 2. But at the World Baseball Classic, these guys have ramped up their prep to be more big game ready early, which is always a concern on pitchers. Skubal pitched for Team USA on Saturday. I believe it was Saturday. Now there's a question as to on Sunday. Yeah, Saturday in game 2. Now there's a question as to whether he will pitch again. Some thought he might just go right back to Detroit Tigers camp, and that might be it. But it appears he stayed with Team USA, so maybe he goes into the quarterfinal, semifinal games that are going to be played this weekend, and a championship decided a little bit more than a week from now. Mexico and USA go tonight. So that's how we kind of stack up. I continue to pay attention, and you'll see me kind of peering to my right to scroll through what TweetDeck is showing me. And really the big signing was the Raiders on cornerback Eric Stokes, 3 years, $30 million. Again, former Packers player. Draymond Jones, 3 years, $39 million, staying in New England. The Patriots are going to New England. So they made one of those early moves. Continue to just kind of scroll through and see what's going on there. It's a very active screen right now because a lot of stuff happens in a short period of time, even though none of it becomes official until Wednesday. So the free agency tracker is going to be active and moving quickly as we go through the day, and wondered which I think soon to be former Green Bay Packer will go sooner rather than later today. We think that Rasheed Walker, the left tackle, he's going to leave, but we think that the activity on him will be fast and furious, and that somebody will make that move fairly quickly. Rasheed Walker, Quay Walker, not related, Romeo Doubs, all 3 of those guys likely to make a significant bank deposit. quickly in this free agent window. So let me clean up something on the Packers. 3-year, $33 million deal for Sean Ryan, $11 million signing bonus. That there's a lot of financial news that comes with these moves, and that's where Russ Ball makes his money, is trying to figure out how and where they do and slot the money so that it doesn't handicap you now or deeper into the future. So we'll see how, they go through that. But there's a financial, you got to take some courses in financial planning to figure out exactly what is going on. The Indianapolis Colts made the move with Green Bay in trading Zier Franklin and getting defensive lineman Colby Wooden over the weekend. They've also re-signed wide receiver Alec Pierce, has agreed to terms to remain in Indianapolis, 4-year, $114 million deal, makes him the highest paid free agent wide receiver in NFL history. You said who? Alex Pierce, because he has been that good. Indianapolis locks him up 4 years, $114 million. And they also transition tagged Daniel Jones over the weekend. So their quarterback situation remains not a mystery, but it doesn't happen very often that you transition tag. The Falcons are expected to pursue Tua Tagovailoa, which we kind of thought would happen after Miami said he would not return to the Dolphins. So Tua, Green Bay is going to be in the market for a backup quarterback because Malik Willis is going to sign with somebody in the next 48 hours or so. And some of those rumors are to the Arizona Cardinals. I wouldn't love that for him because I don't know that the Cardinals are a good organization. So I wouldn't love that for Malik Willis. One of the things you will love for him is he's going to get paid. So wherever he goes will be for a lot of money. But I don't know that the Arizona Cardinals are set up to win, even with Malik Willis. As we mentioned, the Patriots are signing defensive end Draymond Jones. So he's going to leave Baltimore. So that is, and I wouldn't be surprised if Green Bay is active on that front as well. So then let me also get into two of the things that I love about this time of year. I do love the month of March. The free agency was an add-on to the month of March in relative recent years that it's become this active in what they do and how they work that on the calendar. But you get the Players Championship at TPC Sawgrass coming up this next week. You had Bay Hill last weekend. You also get the conference tournaments now this week in earnest with the Power Four conferences going to conference tournaments. The other ones, many of the peripheral conferences have already crowned champions. So you get that underway in many cases tomorrow. And then you're sitting on 2.5 weeks. Today is March 9th. The Brewers will open 2 weeks from Thursday at home against the White Sox at American Family Field. So, and then this year you get the added bonus of the World Baseball Classic. So there's really cool stuff going on all fronts as we work our way through the week. Let me do this on the I Love Mondays as well. Tomorrow's our Superfan Tuesday. Now, Superfan Tuesday means I have a co-host, which is good. We were going to have Bill Huber as a guest today, but with all the goings on and because the Rashan Gary trade happened, Bill we'll have him on later in the week. So tomorrow, Superfan Tuesday, which is usually Tuesdays with Treadmill. Jeff will not be here. Courtney Corning, a Jeff protege. I don't think he's going to like that. Courtney will be in tomorrow. He'll join me in studio. Ben Bano, who's not here today, will come in and capably handle the technical duties tomorrow as I struggle through it today. But we will add Courtney Corning to the show tomorrow. On Wednesdays, I think we're going to talk with Tom Oates this Wednesday on an OG Wednesday. So Oatesy, I think, will join us on Wednesday. Still working through those details. I got a significant move that just happened in the NFL. Hold your thoughts here. Not involving the Packers, but super interesting regardless. On Thursday, Vinny Rottino will join us. Thursdays with Vinny, brought to you by Potawatomi Sportsbook and Casino and Hotel in Milwaukee. Bet above the rest. Vinny joins us every Thursday. My conversation with him last week was fantastic. I loved it. I loved all of it. And he will join us on Thursdays for the foreseeable future, the next 7 months. And a big thank you to Potawatomi for stepping up and helping to make that happen. All right. And then on Friday, undetermined, but I think I'm going to go OG Wednesdays and NG New Guy Fridays. So think of Tom Oates this week, and then I'll fill in on the OGs as we roll forward. But I'll add a young gun into the show on Friday. Undetermined, because I haven't reached out to Nick yet. But it could be Bruisewitz on Friday. He doesn't know that. I just mentioned that. All right. Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker is leaving Seattle. I think that was a foregone conclusion. He's leaving Seattle. This tweet coming out, Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker is headed to the Kansas City Chiefs. All right. Mike Garafolo reporting, tweeting that out, that Kenneth Walker goes to the Chiefs. Now, we just saw the announcement earlier that Travis Kelce is coming back. He's going to run it back. He's going to play another year. But the Seahawks, you knew they were losing the Super Bowl MVP, mainly, I would assume, because of money. But Kenneth Walker signing with the Kansas City Chiefs. So there's a lot of Chief haters out there. Anytime anybody in any sport is really good for a while, it gets hated upon. That franchise does. So the Kansas City Chiefs, the hate directed towards middle America, and the Kansas City Chiefs will continue because Kenneth Walker, the Super Bowl most valuable player, former Michigan State Spartan, is going to the Kansas City Chiefs. Interesting how that plays itself out. The Chiefs have had some pretty good running backs over the course of time. This one's a very good one, and he goes to KC right in the middle of his deal. NFC West gets a little weaker, but the AFC West continues to grow there in some stature as Kenneth Walker will go and play alongside of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, who decided, many people thought, I thought he was done. And I'll add this to it. He looked like he was done. He wasn't that same guy. So he's going to run it back, it appears, for another season. I believe his 14th. So Kelce back to Kansas City. Mahomes trying to be healthy in Kansas City. And now they add Kenneth Walker to the Chiefs roster as a free agent signing to Kansas City. There are no details on that as we sit right now, but Ian Rappaport, the Chiefs searching for some juice at that position. They found it's a good day in Kansas City, signing the Super Bowl MVP. But again, it's early on dollars. I'm sure that'll come out relatively soon, but it is not yet. But that's the biggest, most significant move so far today. So we'll see how that rolls itself going forward as well. So many things going on in the National Football League today. And we'll go back to where we started, and that is the Packers making the trade of Rashan Gary to the Dallas Cowboys. After the Cowboys couldn't land Max Crosby, and good on the Raiders to actually get 2 first-round draft choices for Max Crosby. Many thought that might be too heavy a price for some to pay. Baltimore did. But once Dallas missed out on that opportunity, they were going to go other routes. And one of those other routes ended up being to Green Bay, where they get Rashan Gary from the Packers for a late pick in 2027, which we found out is a 4th-round selection going back to Green Bay. So we had that hack on Gary's Instagram account that we had on the show on Friday. So he is no longer a Green Bay Packer, so he can not have it be hacked anymore. He can put that right back up because it's real. So the Cowboys will rework his contract. Gary is set to make $18 million this year as part of his $96 million deal. He is currently signed through 2027. The move will clear $11 million in salary cap for the Packers this season. $17 million of dead cap is going to be eaten. It's already been paid, so that part doesn't matter. But they'll eat that cap now this year, and the Packers remove his remaining $28 million in 2026 and $31 million in 2027 because that money wasn't guaranteed. $11 million in savings this year, $31 million in savings a year from now, plus they get the 4th round pick in return, which is a really, really good deal. And it was going to be hard to do that because everybody knew Green Bay was going to release him. And I think Dallas's deal on that is simply that they didn't want to try and manage Rashan Gary on the free agent market. They wanted to directly negotiate with Green Bay and make the trade that they wanted. Now they can singularly negotiate Rashan Gary on a reworked contract and not have to manage that against other bids coming in across the league. So there's your rundown on what's going on in the National Football League today. All of this is super interesting, and it will be nonstop throughout the day, all day long. We're going to have reaction to that tomorrow. Courtney Corning will join me in studio tomorrow on a Superfan Tuesday. It's also a Treadmill Tuesday, but Treadmill is traveling the world, so he will not be here tomorrow. Courtney Corning is going to be filling his place on the show, and Courtney's a super fan. My rule on a super fan coming on the show on Tuesdays is, by definition, have to be, you got to walk the walk, and in this case, you got to talk the talk. You're fully in as a super fan, and I like them to be, I like the super fan not only to have the passion that makes them a super fan, but to most of the times be pretty smart about it. And I think Courtney can at least hit, some of the time, a majority of the time, where I think he's pretty smart about it. I give him a hard time, but yeah, I do think that he's smart about it. He'll join us in studio here tomorrow as part of this broadcast. So he's in tomorrow. And then Tom Oates working out the details, but he will join us this Wednesday. Vinny Rottino will be in pretty much throughout the entire show on Thursday. And then we're going to go to the New Guy Club on Friday. He doesn't know it yet, but I think Nick Bruzewitz, if he's available, he'll be my guy coming in on Friday that we will do. So all of these things kind of working their way through. All right, I'm gonna figure out how to hit the try to hit the proper buttons to end the show. So I wonder how I do that. Do you think? Okay. All right, ending show. Trying to figure out how that works. Let's start with end of show music.
I love Mondays.
There's that.
With Mike Heller.
Talk to you tomorrow. I love Mondays with Mike Heller back. Tuesday, we'll do this at 10 o'clock.